Welcome to Skagit Valley Soccer Referees Association. Information for newly licensed referees. So you've become a USSF referee. Now what? Part 3. Match assignments. You've done your line clinics. You're all set up on Skagit Refs. Now you're going to want to work matches. As a new referee, you'll be starting out working lower level youth matches. This could be as a center referee on a U8, 9, or 10 recreational matches. These matches don't have assistant referees. You could be an assistant referee for a U14 to U11 recreational match. You might even be assigned as an assistant referee on a U11 or U12 select level match. Always make sure you've read the rules for the youth matches so you know which game you're working and the rules appropriate for that match. Always try to have a copy of these in your bag. Might even have a couple extra copies for coaches. These can always be found on our referee on the home page of the referee website. Getting your match assignments. Of course, our primary source for this is SkagitRefs.org. We covered the login in part 1. After you log in, you're going to see the referee tab and the list of choices, which we also covered in part 1. Now you're going to click on Match Inquiry to see a list of matches. Here's a quick reminder shot of what the page looks like after you go to the referee page. And after you go to Match Inquiry, here's a quick look at what you'll see. In this example, there are no matches, at least matches that meet the criteria shown up above in the criteria grid. We'll cover that here in a second. Give you a second here to kind of look this over and kind of study it and kind of get a feel for what it looks like. Using the matches criteria grid. This determines exactly what details you see in your report. A little check mark next to each item means that it will be shown in your report. If there's no check mark, it doesn't show up. Then the box next to it defines what the actual parameters are. In most cases, if you leave it blank, or if it says all, it'll show all information. Two main keys to using this. First is to remember that you must click the Show button in order for the changes to take effect. The second is that if you want to make these changes permanent for your profile, you need to click the Save symbol after you do the show, of course. You can always revert back to your last save defaults by pressing the Revert Back symbol. Again, if you're questioning which symbols do what, just drag your mouse over it and it'll give you a little explanation. Here's an example of what it looks like after you've done a little customizing. Again, there are no matches for this specific layout. Once you've got it customized and you press the Show button, you'll see all the matches that meet your criteria that you've chosen. Again, if you plan to use this criteria most of the time, click on the Save icon so you don't have to go through this process every time you log in. You can always change this parameters, and you can save it if you like, or you can just change it for one particular visit. It's up to you. Now that you've got your match criteria set, now we're going to look at the list again. And we have some matches that have appeared that match your criteria that are up above in the match criteria grid. Most of the details of the match should be pretty self-explanatory. Each match will have a unique match identification number. Anytime that you have to communicate with someone, especially a referee assigner, regarding a match, please include the match number in the details. In the following example, the symbol next to the match number indicates that the assigner who entered the match has special details that you need to be aware of as the referee. A lot of the matches won't have special notes. To view the special notes, just drag your mouse over the little symbol and you'll get to read the notes. In this example, It says this is a fictional match for training purposes and some other notes there. If you want to see the full details for a particular match, just click on the match number from the list. And of course, to get back to the full match list, just click on the Match Inquiry tab again on the left side of the column. Here's a sample of a match detail. This is after you've clicked on the match number. This is just the detail about this particular match. Notice at the bottom you see the open referee positions. Now, how do you get your name assigned to one of those referee positions? Just look for the little blue and white plus symbols. Anytime you see a symbol, see this symbol, it means that you may, and I'll emphasize may, be able to self-assign yourself to the match. A referee position that has an open symbol but not a plus symbol it's open, but it's not available for you to self-assign. It usually means one of two things. Could mean that the assigner has chosen to manually assign the position, meaning the assigner is going to pick who they want in that position. Or it could mean that the ranking for that match is set above your level. A little more on that subject in a later session. If you want a position that is not available for you to self-assign, you may still be able to get it. You just need to contact the appropriate referee assigner. And we talked about that in part 1 also. Now let's assign you to a match. After you've spotted a plus symbol that you want on a match in a position that you want, just simply click on it. Here's an example of the match list with the little plus symbols. And as you notice, as you drag your mouse over the little plus symbol, it'll ask you, would you like to try and self-assign this? You're going to see a long list of questions. The answers will determine if you are, in fact, eligible to self-assign to the position. Don't worry, these are automated. You don't have to remember the answers. They'll be automatically filled in. If all of the answers are blue, as an OK or a pass, or sometimes not applicable, you will see an Assign button at the bottom of the list. Just click on the Assign button to complete the process. You are not assigned to the position until you complete that last step of clicking the Assign button. If you're looking at the list and you've decided against self-assigning this, just simply click on the Match Inquiry or any other tab on the page and it will get you out of this without assigning you to the match. And here's an example of the question list. Notice there's a long list of questions here. Everything's all filled in with blue OKs. And there is a self-assign button at the bottom. Click on that and you've just self-assigned yourself to a match. And here's the list of matches. It shows you updated as the referee. Do you want to do more games than this? Just continue the process, just as we went through. Please be careful not to overextend or overcommit yourself. This is really easy to do. If you're working multiple games, please allow yourself a break. Please don't try to do 3, 4, or 5 matches continuously without a break. Everybody needs a rest once in a while. And here's a screenshot showing you assigned to more than one match. When you're assigning yourself to multiple matches, please be careful of several items. The biggest one is allow for all match time. Don't just think about how long the match lasts. You got to take into consideration things like the pregame. We're supposed to be there a half hour prior to the match. The actual match time, allow for halftime, and allow time for the postgame. You're supposed to watch the teams shake hands. If there's a select match and there's paperwork to do after the match. And let's not forget about just simple things like packing up your referee gear and walking back to a parking lot for your car, which may not be right next to the field. All these things need to be taken into consideration as part of the match time. If you're working games at multiple locations, say you're working a game in Cedar Woolley and you're working games in Burlington, Mount Vernon, etc., you have to allow adequate travel time between the fields as well. For example, if you've got a 10:30 under 9 match in Cedar Woolley, there's no way that you're going to be able to work a 12 p.m. match in LaConner. You just do not have enough time to take into account the match time and the drive time between those two locations. Some notes for younger referees, meaning the non-driving referees. You, not your parents, should be doing your self-assigning. This is your job and your responsibility. Seems like every year we have referees who fail to show up for a match, and when we find out why, it's because mom or dad assigned them to a match and they didn't even know about it. You should be doing your own self-assigning. This doesn't mean that your parents should be uninformed either, though. Remember, it's probably going to be your parents who get you to those matches, so make sure that they're available to take you. In short, work together. Now, you've tried to self-assign a match, but you see a red fail on one of the questions. What do you do now? This means that you cannot self-assign that position. First thing to do is read the fail question and try to determine why. Sometimes this is pretty self-explanatory. If you have questions, contact the referee assigner for that match. Here's an example of showing a fail condition for one of the questions. In this case, notice the absence of the self-assign button at the bottom. This is just the list of questions, but there is no option to assign the match. In the example shown, you've tried to assign yourself to a match that is too close to one of your other assignments. In other words, the system already knows that there's no way you're going to be able to do both of those assignments time-wise. If there is a fail condition, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't self-assign the match, but you will need to contact the appropriate referee assigner and have them put you on the match. Remember to include the match number in your communications. Thank you very much.